Leeds International School. Form 4 Biology. First midterm, Unit 1 Organisms and Life Processes. Organisms and Life Processes. Objectives. Describe cell structures, their functions. Know the differences in the structures of plant and animal cells. Understand the characteristics shared by living organisms. Know the similarities in the structures of plant and animal cells. Content. Life processes, cell structure, plant cells. Life processes. Children, you all know all living organisms are composed of microscopic units known as cells. These building blocks of life have a number of features in common which allow them to grow, reproduce and generate more organisms. Now children, what is the simplest organisms are made from single cells? But more complex plants and animals are composed of millions of cells. Now shall we see some examples of single cell organisms? They are amoeba, parameciums. There are maybe hundreds of different types of cells with different structure. They are specialized so that they can carry out particular functions in the animal or plant. There are basic features that are the same in all cells. Now we will see some multicellular organisms. Plants and animals composed of millions of cells. We are calling them multicellular organisms. What are the life processes? Life processes are functions that all living things do. Bacteria, plants, animals, fungi, all living organisms do these functions. Children, in primary 3 you have learned what are the life processes. We have a short form, Mrs. Nurg. M represent move, R represent reproduce, S represent sensitivity, G represent growth, R represent respiration, excretion and nutrition. Those are the life processes of living organisms. Cell structure and function. Most cells contain certain parts such as the nucleus, cytoplasm and cell membrane. We can see these three parts in plant cells and animal cells also. Some cells have structures missing. Now children, think you have learned in form 1. What are the parts missing in some cells? Shall we see now? Red blood cells are unusual in that they have no nucleus. Red blood cells doesn't have nucleus. New cells are created by old cells dividing into two. Cells are the basic building blocks of life. Children, now we will see animal cell and plant cell. Animal cell. Now look at the picture, children. Plant cell. Now see the picture. Now you have learned earlier plant cell and animal cell and what are the differences. Now we will point some differences. Now see the animal cells, the outer covering is cell membrane. When we see the plant cell, the outer covering is cell wall. What is the difference? Because the plant cell has a cell wall, it has a fixed shape. But animal cell doesn't have a cell wall and it doesn't have a fixed shape. There are two differences now I told you all. have a fixed shape and haven't a fixed shape, have a cell wall, haven't a cell wall. And see the other things. What are the differences you can see? What about the vacuole? You can see vacuole only in plant cells. When you see the animal cells, there are small vacuoles. It is temporary, not permanent. Plant cell has permanent vacuole. Why plant cells are green color? Because it has chloroplast. But animal cells, can we see chloroplast? No, we cannot see chloroplast in animal cells. Now you can write the differences between animal cells and plant cells. Shall I tell again? Animal cell doesn't have a cell wall. Plant cell has a cell wall. Animal cell doesn't have fixed shape. Plant cell has a fixed shape. Animal cell doesn't have permanent vacuole, but plant cell has a permanent vacuole. Animal cell doesn't have chloroplast. Plant cell has chloroplast. Cytoplasm. The living material that makes up a cell is called cytoplasm. It has a texture rather like sloppy jelly. In other words, somewhere between a solid and liquid. Unlike a jelly, it is not made of one substance, but is a complex material made of many different structures. Cytoplasm is the semi-fluid substance of a cell that is external to the nuclear membrane and internal to the cellular membrane. Cytoplasm is the fluid that fills a cell. It is not made of one substance, but is a complex material made of many different structures. You can see many of these structures under an ordinary light microscope. An electron microscope has much higher magnification and can show the details of these structures. These structures are called organelles. Cell organelles. Now children, we will see some cell organelles. First we will see the nucleus. Largest and most easily seen organelle is the nucleus. Nearly all cells have a nucleus. The few types that don't are usually dead or don't live for very long. Most cells have one nucleus, but certain cells, such as the red blood cells found in the blood, do not have a nucleus. It contains chromosomes, which carry the genetic materials or genes. Genes control the activities in the cell by determining which proteins a cell can make. The DNA remains in the nucleus. Now we will see the function. Controls the activities of the cell. The nucleus function is controls the activities of the cell. Ribosomes. Ribosomes are important cell organelles. Ribosome is a large complex of RNA and protein. A cell contains thousands of ribosomes, but they are too small to be seen through a light microscope. You can use the electron microscopes to see these ribosomes. Now we will see the function of the ribosomes. The job of the ribosome is to make new proteins. Now children, now we will see what is the other organelles we can find in the cell. Mitochondria we are calling as the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria are important parts of our cells because they take food and make energy that the rest of the cell can use. In the cells that need a lot of energy, such as muscles or nerve cells, there are many mitochondria. This gives us clue to their function. They carry out some of the reactions of respiration. types of cells have different numbers of mitochondria. Some simple cells contain only one or two mitochondria. Cell membrane. The cell membrane is a biological membrane that separates the interior of all cells from the outside environment, which protects the cell from its environment. All cells are surrounded by a cell membrane. You can see the picture, children. There is a cell membrane. It surrounded the cell. Sometimes called the cell surface membrane to distinguish it from other membrane inside the cell. This is a thin layer like a skin on the surface of the cell. It forms a boundary between the cytoplasms of the cell and the outside. The cell membrane gives the cell its structure and regulates the materials that enter and leave the cell. It is a selectively permeable barrier, meaning it allows some substance to cross but not others. However, it is not a complete barrier. Some chemicals can pass into the cell and others can pass out. We say that the membrane is partially permeable. We say the membrane is partially permeable. Cell wall. All of the structures you have seen so far are found in both animal and plant cell. However, some structures are only ever found in plant cell. There are three in particular: the cell wall, permanent vacuole, and chloroplast. Cell wall is a layer of non-living material that is found outside the cell membrane of plant cell. It is made of cellulose. It is made mainly of a carbohydrate called cellulose. Although other chemicals may be added to the wall in some cells, cellulose is a tough material that helps the cell keep its shape and is one reason why the body of a plant has fixed shape. Animal cells do not have a cell wall. Cell walls protect the cells from damage. It is also there to make the cell strong, to keep its shape, and to control the growing of the cell and plant. Plant cells absorb water, producing an internal pressure. The cell wall is porous, so it is not a barrier to water to dissolve substance. We call it freely permeable. Vacuole. Permanent feature of the cell. Plant cells often have a large central space surrounded by a membrane called a vacuole. Animal cells do not contain vacuole. Vacuoles are typically filled with a liquid called cell sap. This vacuole is a permanent feature of the cell. It is filled with water liquid called cell sap, which is stored dissolved sugar, minerals, and other solutes. Most plant cells have a central vacuole. Chloroplast. Cells of the green parts of plants, especially the leaves, contain another very important organelle. Do you know that? Do you know? It's chloroplast. Chloroplasts are considered organelles in plant cells. Organelles are special structures in cells that perform specific function. The main function of the chloroplast is photosynthesis. Chloroplasts absorb light energy to make food in the process of photosynthesis. They contain a green pigment called chlorophyll. Chloroplasts will sometimes move around within the cell in order to position themselves to where they can best absorb sunlight. Cells from the parts of a plant that are not green, such as flowers, roots, and woody stems, have no chloroplast. Summary. Children, now I have finished explaining the lesson. Now shall we summarize the lesson? The three new structures for a plant cell. The three new structures for a plant cell: cell wall, chloroplast, and vacuole. Now children, what is this? This is differences between plant cell and animal cell. When we take the shape, plant cell has a fixed shape, but animal cell doesn't have a fixed shape because it doesn't have a cell wall. Cell wall present, absent. Animal cell doesn't have a cell wall. Chloroplast. Yes, plant cell has. Because why? Because of chloroplast, plant cells are green color. But animal cell doesn't have chloroplast. Vacuole. Plant cell has permanent vacuole, but animal cell doesn't have permanent vacuole. Animal and plant cells. Animal and plant cells come in different shapes and sizes, but they all have three basic features. What are those? Can you guess? Yes, nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. Children, shall we check your memory? Can you answer these questions? Now try to answer these questions. Children, thank you very much for listening to me. Have a nice day.